Good evening, namaskar. I think after such an extensive overview of the book, I'm feeling a little dwarfed giving this talk, but I'll try my best. Thanks to my good friend, Dr. Anirban Ganguly, who I think has taken a very bold and brave political step to actually fight some real autocracy in the country. When all of us sit comfortably and pontificate, I think he's actually stepped out there. A lot of respect for that. Professor Shri ji and the author, of course, Balasubramanian ji, very distinguished audience here. The power within, I think, is a great effort to bring out the leadership legacy of the Prime Minister. I think the question many will ask is, when there are so many books that have been written on Modi ji, why another book? I think his personality is such. There are so many different dimensions, so many chapters in his life journey. And it is still work in progress. It's not done yet. Right? I think it creates the opportunity to write so many books. Dr. Ganguly himself has written, I think, 2 books at least on Modi ji. I had the fortune to write a book on Man Ki Baat and its influence. So there's several books which have brought out, the various personality, leadership aspects of the Prime Minister. What I felt was very unique and new in this effort is that, this book has really put it in the Indian context. And in that sense, it has set a very high benchmark. And we heard a lot of that from the author himself directly. One of the things that I generally look for in a book is to look at the references in the glossary. I'm glad actually he mentioned the glossary, because usually that's where I start, because it kind of gives you a sense of what is the effort that has gone into writing this book. And I was pleasantly surprised that there was so much of original sources that he has cited, and the effort he's put in the glossary, where he has actually explained so many Sanskrit terms, Indian terms, with a lay international audience readership in mind. I think that's what makes the appeal of this book to go much beyond just people in India, but to a global audience. I think that's a very, very important effort. The other thing, of course, which he spoke extensively just now, is the ease with which he has melded ideas and concepts from Indian philosophy, ancient texts, ancient Indian ideas, and put them in context of the present with the Modi model of leadership. I think that is, again, very unique aspect of this book. I think it puts in place a foundation. Like he pointed out, so many PhDs, so many courses that can emerge. So it has laid the foundation for a vast body of work on leadership models that draw their inspiration from ancient Indian ways of thinking, Indian philosophy, Indian ways of life, and then drawing examples from a very wide pantheon of leadership, be it Swami Vivekananda, be it Kautilya, and all the various examples that he gave. I think that is what makes this effort so unique. So as he rightly pointed out, I think this is the beginning of a long tradition of academic work that needs to happen, where we need to put in extensive study, build rigorous models and theories, so that the Indian way of leadership is presented to the world as a very unique and different way of doing things. Today, for example, you see several of the global tech CEOs are Indian. I just read an article that not only the CEOs, but several lungs of leadership below are also Indian. So clearly we have made our mark, but I think what that mark means has to be codified. It has to be distilled into a body of knowledge. And I think that this is the beginning for that effort. I'm glad that the Vice Chancellor of India's most important university is here. I think I'm confident that this will get codified. I think this book comes at a very pivotal moment of geopolitics. As you can see, India as a democracy has defied many global trends. In fact, I did some analysis some time back, looking at all the major countries, G20 countries and biggest democracies. And if you look at every one of them since COVID, they've all had some kind of leadership change, turmoil. They've gone through instability. While India is the lone example where we have defied that trend. I mean, just see what has happened past week in Bangladesh. And I understand someone is here who's just come from Dhaka, who's actually seen it firsthand. So, I mean, just in our neighborhood, we've seen this kind of instability. and where a duly elected government has been rendered dysfunctional. And we're seeing that again in the United Kingdom. They just had a recent election. Now they're in complete turmoil to the point where the police are now scanning social media platforms to arrest people, even if they're not present in the UK. Right? So clearly we are seeing a big challenge to what it means to run a stable democracy. And today we are open through the internet, and that has also made us vulnerable to foreign actors through all these big tech platforms. And we saw similar efforts during the 2024 elections, right, where you had foreign media, a whole bunch of NGO activists working overtime to delegitimize the elections. And one of the things that I had done during that time was to chronicle the entire body of false reporting and disinformation that was carried by major global media outlets. Some of you may have seen this. We had a conversation with ANI on the Smita Prakash podcast on this whole extensive campaign that was being run by the global media. And this is not just 2024. I went back and looked at 2019, then 2014, the same pattern. So every single time you had this pattern of reporting highly exaggerated headlines, highly motivated, kind of news articles. And it is to the credit of PM Modi that India has not only reposed faith in his leadership, but our democracy has shown resilience against this kind of foreign influence efforts. And these efforts continue even today. We are seeing that even now, where efforts are being made to undermine the verdict that has been given to the Modi-led NDA alliance. So India, as the largest democracy, has to lead and show the way in terms of how a democracy can stare down these agents of disinformation, disaffection, without compromising on our democratic values and ethos. And I think that is where the model of leadership becomes so important. And that's what makes this book and this effort so timely. Because the greatest challenge for any democracy today is how to show resilience, how to build strength, how to build capacity. And this will not happen overnight. This will require sustained institution building. And I think the role that he's playing with the Mission Karma Yogi and the Capacity Building Commission, I think is extremely important because no nation has achieved great status without building strong institutions. And if we have to build institutional capacity, we need to build thousands of leaders. In fact, when I wrote my speech notes, I'm glad that what the PM told you is almost aligned because that is the impression that I got, that this effort is about not just one person, it is about building thousands of leaders. And I'm not surprised at all that that was his advice to you, that we have to take this mission on a priority basis because that is what our economy demands, that's what our youth demand. So an entire new generation of leaders have to emerge. They have to be schooled in this way of thinking with these values and that missionary zeal, where they set aside their personal interests, personal goals, work in that disinterested manner, looking at the long term, that maybe what we do today will have an impact not just in our lifetime, but perhaps for future generations. I think that zeal is very important because only then that the kind of democracy, the kind of great nation that we want to build will happen. And I think that will require a lot of rigor, a lot of academic discipline. Without that, I don't think it's going to happen. And every one of these efforts, be it the Modi effect, the Modi doctrine, the collective spirit, the power within, I think all these will contribute to this effort. I think the lessons from this have to be distilled. They have to be codified to evolve these new leadership making methods. And then we have to build these institutions where these leaders will emerge. I once again compliment the author for this marathon effort. One of the leadership traits, which even Anirban mentioned in the beginning, which I've observed as well, is this ability of the Prime Minister to listen. I think it's an incredible ability where even if a meeting goes on for several hours, he can just sit and listen without interrupting you for more than an hour. Not only is he a great listener, but I think what I've found is that he has this uncanny ability to think laterally, make connections, connect the dots across very different unrelated domains based on what he's listening to. I think that's what makes him a very unique and effective leader. And that is perhaps what has helped him, weather the vagaries of Indian democracy and has been able to help him give stable, strong leadership to the country through this very turbulent times. And it is no surprise that both authoritarian China and the decadent Western liberalism feel threatened by the Modi model. And hence your book is, a very important book. Because India as a successful billion people democracy is a refutation of both Chinese authoritarianism and the Western models of liberalism. Hence these never-ending threats to our democracy, hence all these foreign actors who want to, constantly undermine what we are doing here in India. However, I think we have to remain firm in our resolve. We have to uphold our democratic values. We have to build, strong institutions. And I think great effort with your book. Once again, thankful to the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation, Dr. Ganguly, for this opportunity, and all of you, to give me a patient listening. Thank you.